Hail Pandawans and happy Easter to you all. Hopefully, you're not too much surrounded by ABC this Easter, and I mean awful bunny chocolate. Easter candy is garbage. Now, I hope you're having a great Easter, and I thought I would take time today just to show a quick walkthrough of the art process I did for the new Hammerfall album, Hammer of Dawn. Came out in end of February, I think. So if you haven't got it yet, pick it up once, pick it up twice, pick it up for your buddies, pick it up for your wife. I just said pick up your Hammer of Dawn for your wife. Excuse me, I shouldn't be talking like that on Easter. Okay, let's jump into this. So this is obviously the finished picture, but it starts from very, very humble beginnings, of course, and that's usually the thumbnail. So let's jump into that. So for this thumbnail here, I heard that the title was Hammer of Dawn. So I go, okay, having Hector, that's their hero character, standing on a pile of some bones and stuff here, or not bones, but bodies, toppled. And we thought that having this, circle here glowing around the hammer could be, the sun, or it could be the glow of the hammer representing the sun. So that is where it started. Pardon me, let's move that out of the way. And then the next one was some more thumbnails I did, and I kind of like this one as well because it showed him in a way that we haven't seen Hector before. He was flying. It's always every one that I do is always him standing there, some form of hammer triumphant or hammer in grim, thought, things like that. This one shows him up in the sky, in the sky with the sun, and I thought it felt very angelic compared to the previous album cover, which was a demonic one. It was called Dominion, and it was the demon Hector. So this contrasted really nicely, and it also it was funny because it was based off of this concept here. I know it's kind of hard to see. But this was for Dominion. It had a demonic Hector with his wings flying through the flames and all that sort of thing. But I thought that doing an angelic version of that might look nice. And the guys dug it, so that is the one that they went for. So what I did real quick was, and this is, pardon the crappy art, this was a quick drawing I did of Hector kind of getting the rough sort of shapes. I knew I wanted to have wings, not bat wings or black feathery wings, but maybe some iron wings or something that felt very regal and high end. I knew that I wanted to contrast the Dominion Hector. The Dominion one was just the biggest, most brutal Hector that I've done so far, like just super thick and beefy with demonic legs and spikes. I wanted this one to be more slender and angelic. It's hard to be angelic when you're just thick and furry. Trust me, I know. I live this way every day. Not a furry, but like hairy, I should say. Let me clarify that. I'm like Harry Poppins, right? Sort of fly in and cause problems or solve them, whatever. Okay, so once I got the Hector sort of rough pencils, a rough design for the new hammer, and that actually to me looked like an X-Men logo. So on the hammer, so I had to make sure that we don't go X-Men. We'll get sued. So here was the rough shape I sent to them. And now this is sort of the phase where once you get the rough shape down, and I'll do some quick little doodles on this right now, you start blocking it in. So, we wanted to get, let's see. There we go. No, it's still not drawing. What a jackass. And I'm doing this live. I'm not going to edit it. I see what it is, though. So we're going to want to go in and start blocking out the shapes of like his chest area, some of the stomach muscles. And obviously there's no shoulder pads on this sketch. So that is like egregiously an error, You can't be a knight without shoulder pads, right? So yeah, that's so basically what I did. I started, blocking in shapes for, the leg armor and things like that. And again, it's really rough and it's going to change a lot. And I have to apologize because it goes from this step to, boom, it's already all kind of fleshed in, but that's because I hadn't been saving it. But I mean, this guy still looks yoked as hell. but to me, was a slender version of him. But as I went on, I was still thinking that he was feeling a little too bulky, so I tried to really just go in and refine the arm shapes. He started feeling a little stubby, so I started, making his legs a little longer. Yeah, and just as you can see, I'm going in refining some of the wings, getting the shoulder pads, most important thing of any picture. And they're small shoulder pads, but they're supposed to be, more slender. So I'm fighting against my own instincts here. So as I keep going, fleshing more things out, I start adding in the highlights on the armor. I start adding in, more of the shine on the wings and things like that. Let's keep moving. Boom. And so this was where I ended up. As you can see, I think he's, a little bit, he's not as, I kind of took away a cool thing that he had on his leg armor. He had some wings kind of similar to like how he does on his forearm armor, but it was just making him feel too blocky and too hefty. So I took that away, and it kind of helped push him. I was sort of struggling because now it made him feel like it doesn't feel as foreshortened as it should. It feels like he's kind of got tiny legs, but I'll address that as we get going. So this is the next step that, a lot of people who don't use Photoshop may not understand how it works. So I'll kind of walk through a little bit. So I basically copied this whole image, and I just changed it to the sort of the overall tone of what I thought the image would be. It was Hammer of Dawn. We wanted some golden light and sun rays and all that sort of stuff. So what I did from there is I got my paintbrush here, and I went to color. You can choose different settings for your brush. And now sometimes color works, sometimes it doesn't, but let me give you a great example, just using an ugly color right now. With the color brush, you can go over the image that you have, and it'll change everything to a different color, but it still keeps the basic tones, right? So green, obviously that's not the right color, right? So I knew I wanted him to have like silver and steel, and I wanted to have, some really nice warm glows on his little, I think they're called rondelles on the armor, his little sun symbols there. So I'll show you an example, just taking the black and white, and we want to retain some of the warmth. I can start going in and coloring the wings. Now, obviously, I'm kind of going out of the wing lines here, but I don't have my selections all set up to where it's just Hector or just the background or things like that. But as you can see, it's going in and changing all the tones that I already have from that golden color to, being more of this sort of, grayish color. Now, if I press down really hard, you see it makes it like solid gray, so much so that it contrasts with the yellow. It almost makes it look blue, right? So I wanted to have a little bit of that blue in there, but you don't need to add blue if you don't want to. You can just kind of have those colors play off each other. And then I would go in, let's see, with the yellow gold on the wing trim, and start defining let's get that going right. That's the smudge tool. See, I start outlining or getting the gilding that the wings have, right? So you can do that. And so I would do that with every little feather and all that. And, one of the key things on Hector is, no matter what he has, he usually has this set of red eyes. So, I'll go in there, and you can drop in the reds and stuff like that and get that going. So this would be the starting of all the colors, his little rondelles there. We want it to be really shining like sun color. And so like that color I picked absolutely did nothing. So let's see what we do with yellow. Cause like a nice, lovely green color. So yeah, again, it's a fine line. You got to kind of walk with the color brush. So what I'll do is once I block out sort of the colors, I can usually go over with what's called the overlay brush. And that is where you can really start getting some pop and shine. Like, see how that kind of just like takes that drab color it had, where you can go in and it starts really, hitting up, like see the red starting to get really bright. But I'll do a more in-depth one sometime. I hadn't planned on, doing this as a walkthrough. I just thought it would be cool to do that. So here we are with some very crappy colors. And what's funny is if you really want, you can take, I'm drawing right on the thing and it's not looking good. So then I can just go over and make it all crappy colors, or you could take it and I take my gray brush and I could just make the whole thing black and white again and start all over if I don't like it, right? So basically what I did then is I kept doing that format of going over with the brushes, and I had all my base colors here. I did some nice kind of purples for the sky. I got in some oranges. I started just breaking out all the components together. So all the wings had, some nice little borders on them, but they were mostly gray in this. I broke out the colors for the new hammer. The new hammer is kind of curved, where the normal hammer is basically a big, like, kind of rectangle, blocky sort of thing based off, the original ones from way back in the day. It's sort of refined and got a little bit more, I don't know, laser cut instead of like blocky stone. Well, this one was even a bit more sculpted and had a bit more of a curve to it, and I thought it felt nice. Like every time I try to do something different with the hammer, because it's while it's an iconic thing, as long as you keep a lot of the elements the same, the patterns that the shapes have inside the hammer, the cross, the X over the center of the hammer. And what I did here was I took this circular pattern that's kind of similar here on his rondelles, it's similar here on his halo, and I did it with chains. And I believe the Dominion one had it with chains as well, so it kind of ties the two together again, which is, it was supposed to be sort of a heaven and hell version. So then I went to town just, tweaking Hector some more and some more and some more. And, then I go, okay, well, now that Hector is mostly done, I wanted to work on the background a bit. So I actually had it to where I can remove Hector. You select him. Usually he'll be on a different layer, and we can cut him out and then just have the sky. So what I did here is you could still see remnants of Hector behind there in the wings, so I know where I need to do all the coloring and where I don't. I started working on the sky, and it was mostly just kind of refining it. I didn't want to put a ton of detail into it. And so, I add like a sunburst. I did realize that there was some empty space down at the bottom. So I put in some mountains, and I totally just jacked the Bob Ross style mountains. That's how I grew up. I grew up watching him and his original teacher, Bill Alexander. He was awesome too, where Bob Ross was really gentle. Happy little trees and all that. Bill Alexander was like, "Oh, mighty Prussia, we carve in mountains here." It's like, yeah, I loved both of them. So now with the background sort of mostly done, I drop Hector back in, and now comes the fun part. It's, it looks nice. It's a nice looking picture, but you go in and start doing the effects. So I'm just going to dump this as one big like effects dump on it. Boom. But that adds in the glows for the hammer and the glows on the rondelles and the, glowing chains and lightning and all that sort of stuff. So I just kept polishing, and then, that's sort of where I ended up. That was the final image for me. And then I dropped in, the rough square as to where the album cover would go. There's enough room up at the top. I'm pointing at the screen like a jackass. You can't see that. Where the logo for Hammerfall would go, at the bottom where Hammer of Dawn would go. And the band dug it, but they had one comment, and I couldn't not see that after they made the comment, and they were totally correct. They had said, well, because everything's so warm and, glowing with gold, it's kind of similar to our old Dominion cover album that you just did. And I'm like, what? Now for an album cover, it's one thing, but they also use these as the artwork for their stage backdrops. And, it's not just an album cover. Obviously the album cover is the most important, but, they'll use elements of the cover for merchandise. And it's like, well, that's right. We really want to change it up. So stuff for Hammer of Dawn feels different than Dominion. If you're a fan, you want to have the new t-shirt. You don't want everything just to be, a blazing shade of red. That's a good name for a band. All the time. So this was the Dominion one, and I'll go back and forth, which it's very different. It's got a lot more contrast, a lot more darks. It's less ethereal, less airy. But I could see having the reds and all that being, and the yellows a conflict. So basically what I did is I go, okay, no problem. And it sounds like it's a lot of work, but actually it really wasn't. I just dropped everything on top of it to be blue. And I dropped the Hector on that I had that still had some of the golds. And I started getting to work, like adding in the golds again. Like I can draw that while here. Hey, I'm an artist. I can do this while I'm talking, I think. So I wanted to make things more gold and have different tones. So I'm sorry, blue. So I got some different blues, and on Hector, I'm selecting Hector right now just on his own. I started adding in like some kind of blue, real soft blues to it. So he felt different, and so I would keep working on that, keep working, keep polishing, and already you can kind of see it's it's still got a little bit of the glow. I wanted to amp up, now that the background is blue, I wanted to make sure that the chains felt really dominant and showed off. So started adding some glows to the adding more yellows and stuff to the chains. I still wanted the feel of dawn, right? So let me see. So I would go in and I started trying to bring back some of that, the yellows and stuff into the sky, right? I didn't want it to be too dominant, but I figure if it's mostly colored with blues, I can go in and I can start adding these warms to it at the top. And basically that, after a couple hours of doing that, I had the final Hammer of Dawn. And I even jacked up the effects even more because it made them more vibrant, because on that blue background, those yellows and oranges really pop. And so it's kind of a nice blend of the original, which was warms at the top, and then the cools of the new thing. And as you can see, I added some like spires in the background to maybe reflect the pillars of heaven or the towers of heaven, compared to in Dominion, where it had like the pandemonium gates and that sort of thing. So yes, that's my walkthrough for Hammer of Dawn. I'll try in the future to remember to save more stages of it. I just don't think like that. Once I start drawing, I'm just jamming, and it's 2 or 3 hours later, and I'm like, oh, damn, I forgot to save elements of that to post. And one day I will do something live and record it and all that, but that's not as fun to me. The whole point is drawing. I want to have fun. I want to just be feeling that experience, that creation. I'm not thinking of, oh, I need to record this, 14-hour picture for a 2-minute YouTube video. Anyways, Pandawans, thanks so much for watching. I hope you guys have a fantastic Easter, and remember your ABCs. Always be creating. Cheers and beers, everyone. Talk to you soon.